Hey everyone.
Picture this, a fantasy tale about a brave guy named Espen, known as the Ash Lad, who sets off on an epic adventure to save a princess and defeat mighty trolls. Far, far away beneath the sky stands a massive mountain. An ancient legend says that deep inside this mountain sleeps a hideous troll, ready to awaken and marry any princess who remains unwed by her 18th birthday. So, whether they liked it or not, all the nearby kings searched for suitors for their daughters before it was too late. One day, Prince Frederick arrives at the local king's castle, vying for the hand of the young Princess Kristen. She immediately dislikes the pompous guy, and when he brags about strangling a bear with his bare hands, Kristen decides this boastful jerk isn't for her. But her father won't hear any objections. Tomorrow, the princess turns 18, and if she doesn't comply, she risks ending up in a cave as the slave of a terrifying monster. So, Kristen flees the castle and, on a bridge, accidentally knocks a local boy named Espen into the water. But he gets even, dunking the princess in the same river. She's furious, but when he offers her some vegetables from his bag, she agrees and devours his entire stash. Kristen doesn't reveal her name, and after eating, she bids the boy farewell and continues her journey. Espen returns home, where his father and two older brothers await. While his brothers are skilled at everything, Espen is a walking disaster. That day, they sent him to the market to buy vegetables, but he fed them all to the stranger. His father decides it's time to go hunting, and the men leave, tasking Espen with watching the house. He sits by the fireplace, poking at the ashes, when he suddenly hears a noise. Thinking trolls have invaded, he swings a poker around, not noticing sparks flying everywhere. A fire starts, and soon the whole house is ablaze. Meanwhile, Kristen, deep in the forest's thickest part, hears trees snapping and a terrifying scream. Her frightened horse throws her off and vanishes into the darkness, leaving the princess in the clutches of a troll. Meanwhile, Espen's father and brothers return from hunting to find their home in smoldering ruins. The father is most heartbroken over losing the only portrait of his late wife, the mother of his sons. Suddenly, Prince Frederick rides out of the forest with his servants, searching for his runaway bride. Espen let slip that he saw a girl, though he didn't know who she was. His father tries to cover for him, calling him a dreamer, but Frederick recalls the old legend about the troll and the princess. If it's true, the king is ready to offer half the kingdom and Kristen's hand to whoever saves his daughter, and Frederick insists it can only be him. The prince rides off, and the father gives his older sons the last of their money, sending them to find the princess, hoping the reward will rebuild their home. But he wants nothing more to do with Espen. The boy follows his brothers and soon picks up a broken mirror, thinking it might come in handy. He also grabs an old helmet and tosses it into his bag. Suddenly, Espen hears someone calling for help from deep in the forest and heads that way, while his brothers press on. He finds an old woman with a long nose stuck in a tree's crevice. Espen frees her and offers a potato from his pocket. In gratitude, she tells him how to enter the cave of the mountain troll, lost years ago in an impassable swamp teeming with evil spirits. She hands him a magical map that will show him any path he asks for. Espen immediately asks where to find the Zwiger sword, and the map draws him a route. After saying goodbye, the old woman vanishes into the woods, and Espen hurries to catch up with his brothers, finding a lost piece of the princess's jewelry, but failing to notice he's standing in a massive footprint. Meanwhile, the king is told that the remains of Kristen's horse and a giant tooth from whatever ate it have been found. At the same time, the princess wakes in a cave, trapped by a massive boulder blocking the exit. In the morning, Espen presses on, while his hungry brothers find a basket filled with golden apples. They eat them all and fall into a euphoric daze. Suddenly, beautiful girls appear from nowhere, inviting the brothers to their home with promises of delicious feasts. Drunk on the apples, the brothers happily follow, and the group stops before a stone wall that parts before them. Espen arrives at the same spot and sees his brothers. But to follow, he too takes a bite of an apple. He catches up to them as they feast at a lavish table surrounded by forest maidens urging them to stay forever. But the spell starts to wear off Espen, who only ate a small piece. He sees the food is actually rot, and the maidens are hideous witches with ghastly voices. Realizing they need to escape, Espen convinces his brothers to take a walk in the lovely garden, Reaching the stone wall blocking the exit, he slaps his brothers, snapping them out of their trance. But the witches aren't ready to let their prey go and chase the trio. The brothers escape just as the stone walls close, cutting them off from their pursuers. They recall their mission, listening to Espen's tale that trolls turn to stone in sunlight but come alive at night. Walking through the forest, Espen finds a ball of yarn and tucks it into his pocket. Suddenly, the brothers spot a tavern and decide to stop for a meal. But Prince Frederick, also there, overhears Espen's talk of the sword and magical map. The prince offers the brothers a sack of coins for the information, and, seeing it, they pressure Espen to hand over the map. But he doesn't buy Frederick's claim that he and the princess are madly in love. Why else would she run from the wedding? Realizing the prince won't back off, Espen throws hot pudding in his face. A brawl breaks out, with Frederick nearly stabbing the bold commoner, but Espen blocks with a rolling pin. Per and Paul fend off Frederick's men, who make the mistake of stepping on a plate belonging to a hulking patron. The giant tosses the prince into a wall, and the brothers seize the chance to flee into the forest. Frederick and his men catch up at the edge of a cliff above a raging river, demanding the map. Espen recalls jumping off a barn as kids and signals his brothers, who leap into the water from a dizzying height. Climbing ashore, Per scolds Espen, saying he'd be a fool to think the princess would marry him. He vents his frustrations, blaming Espen's foolishness for their family's struggles, and demands the map. Espen reluctantly hands it over. The brothers press on, and Espen is thrilled to find an old bearskin. Meanwhile, in the cave, the troll wakes Kristen by touching her hand, and she stabs his finger with a sharp bone. He grabs her, but Kristen tricks the monster, saying she can't marry him without a wedding dress. He locks her back in the cave. The brothers reach the swamps, where a sign begs them to turn back, and the map stops showing the way. In thick fog, Espen falls behind, while Frederick and his men find the brothers. The brothers tell him Espen died in the river. Meanwhile, Espen dives into a pond where the sword lies, guarded by tree-like creatures trying to drag him underwater. He defeats them with the sword and surfaces armed with the magical weapon. Meanwhile, the captured brothers plot their escape. Per throws dirt in a thug's eyes and tries to ride off on his horse, but it won't obey a new master. Espen tests the sword, stunned, as it fells a tree in one swing. Soon, he reaches a clearing where his brothers are tied to a tree and devises a plan. When the prince's archer steps away to relieve himself, he spots a bear and bolts. Frederick and the others give chase, but Espen overestimates his disguise and crashes into a slow-moving giant servant who knocks him out. The sword and map are taken, and Frederick shares his plan to rule the kingdom alone, noting that hunting accidents are common. He says he'll head to the cave at dawn, taunting the starving brothers by tossing a roasted duck at their feet. Suddenly, the horses grow restless, and a troll's roar echoes from the forest. Frederick and his men flee, while Espen saws through the rope with a picked-up stone. The brothers escape just as the troll uproots their tree. They flee into the forest, and the monster turns its attention to Frederick, who climbs to the top of a pine as his loyal servant catches up. Realizing the troll is following his trail, Frederick pushes the man into the beast's claws. But even after devouring the servant, the troll catches the prince. The brothers run, but Paul is also nabbed by the troll. Espen blames himself, but Per unexpectedly comforts his younger brother, who has lately proven himself brave and clever, finding unconventional solutions. Per believes they'll save Paul, as they're now playing by Espen's rules. Meanwhile, Paul and Frederick are thrown into the cave with the princess. Seeing Kristen, Frederick declares his love, but Paul exposes him, saying he only wants the throne. Furious, Kristen knocks the prince out with a bone, and hearing Espen's name from Paul, she lights up with hope for rescue. Espen collects fireflies in an empty honey jar, creating a makeshift lantern. He and Per head to the mountain, sword in hand, and enter the cave, finding a labyrinth. Espen is glad for the ball of yarn, which will help them find their way back. But then he falls into a hole, only saved by catching his sword. Trying to climb out, he spots the prisoners below, and he and Per start pulling them up with a rope. Despite his misdeeds, they decide to save Frederick too, but as the group heads for the exit, they stumble upon the sleeping troll. The massive creature blocks their path, forcing them to jump over its tail. Kristen notices a wedding dress hanging on the cave wall. Frederick is the last to jump, but panics and falls onto the troll. The monster wakes, and the group races for the exit as dawn breaks. Kristen suggests climbing a rock to reach sunlight faster, but the troll doesn't stop. Espen saves the hapless prince again, who flees and hides among the rocks. The brothers and princess climb to the top of the mountain ridge, pursued closely by the troll. Realizing there's no way forward, Espen draws the magical sword and slashes the troll's legs, but it strikes him, causing him to lose the weapon. Per charges, but is knocked out by a massive paw. The sun is nearly up when Kristen distracts the troll from Espen, who rummages in his bag and finds the mirror. He climbs to the peak and directs a captured ray of sunlight at the troll just as it's about to crush Kristen. The monster turns to stone, and as dawn arrives, Kristen kicks the statue, shattering it to pieces. Meanwhile, Frederick tries to reach the palace and meets the long-nosed old woman. Hearing his mockery, she sends him down a false path. The brothers and a princess arrive at the palace. The overjoyed parents embrace their daughter, but when talk turns to the reward, Espen refuses the honor of ruling and asks only for money to rebuild their home. The king agrees that Kristen will marry whomever she wants, whenever she chooses. The brothers return to their father, who rejoices at seeing all three and apologizes to Espen for his harsh words. Soon, their new home is nearly complete, and one day, Kristen arrives to take Espen for a ride on her horse. As for Frederick, he ends up with those forest maidens who treat him to golden apples. In the end, the Ash Lad in the Hall of the Mountain King is a thrilling fantasy that transports us to a world of Norwegian fairy tales, full of magic and adventure. Espen proves that courage and quick thinking can overcome any obstacle, even trolls. I absolutely loved this movie. Vibrant visuals, charismatic characters, and the spirit of folk legends create an unforgettable vibe. It's the perfect story for anyone who loves epic tales with a heartwarming ending. I recommend it to everyone ready to dive into the world of Scandinavian adventures. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts on the film in the comments. See you soon. Bye-bye.